So, World Relief, I would say our mission concisely is to boldly engage in the world's greatest crisis. And so we're international, we're a global INGO, if you will, and we try to really, for the most part, I know it's going to sound cliche, but we really want to love people with hospitality that we believe our faith is entrenched in. I hope we can look at this with soft eyes. And what I mean by soft eyes is we need to see what's already right in front of us. It's right there. We're probably missing it to make the shift that we need to. And when we do that, it's going to help us to navigate these seasons of chaos, the seasons of crisis. But we all understand that shifts become easier, not harder, when they're done in productive steps that are measurable or have a metric to them.
This is truly for people who are maybe just getting started with their career or maybe still at the early stages of a career. You've had such a diverse career, right? Looking back, what's one thing that you are most proud of in how you have balanced faith, leadership, and organizational growth? You've been involved in church planting and community building efforts, right? What's one key thing that you've learned about aligning people and processes in these environments, especially when trying to scale a mission-driven organization? Dr. Matthew.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think the best way I can answer it is through my mindset, understanding probably missiologically, we can't change community with colonialism.
Can you tell us a little bit about World Relief as an organization? What do you do? What is the mission?
Yeah, so World Relief, I would say our mission concisely is to boldly engage in the world's greatest crisis.
Folks, today we are honored to welcome a truly multidimensional leader to the show, Dr. Matthew Fretwell. He has a career spanning over 3 decades. Matthew has served as a visionary founder, executive director, entrepreneur, consultant, professor, and leadership coach, truly multiple roles. His journey has taken him across diverse industries, from not-for-profit to religious organizations, academia, and even the restaurant sector. Matthew truly brings in a rare blend of strategic insight, cultural fluency, and purpose-driven leadership. He has developed accredited educational content across multiple LMS platforms, advised doctoral candidates, and coached leaders on everything from integral mission strategy to future-focused leadership models. Right? Passionate about generosity, diversity, and deep-rooted transformation, Matthew brings unmatched energy and authenticity to every conversation, and we are thrilled to have his insights today, right? So please join me in welcoming Dr. Matthew Fretwell to this broadcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my honor to be here.
Great. So Matthew, you've had such a diverse and impactful career, from leading spiritual formation at World Relief, to mentoring leaders globally, right? Can you share a bit about your journey and what led you to your current role at World Relief?
Yeah, I'll give the short version, but we'll just condense the part where you said that it's been about 30 years, and it has at least over 20 years within that solid continual. But it has nonprofit business sector, as you said, within the restaurant as an owner and an operator, and also a lot within the religious side. But when I transitioned to World Relief, I was in an associate professor role. And what I saw within World Relief was the ability for me to kind of broaden things to serve in an area that was more challenging for me. It was, as I said, broader within the context of a global sense. And I was able to work there. And I think part of my passion has always been to mentor, to see others to grow in their skills and their gifts and their talents, and then utilize those to the best of their ability. So seeing those types of attributes within World Relief was a big contribution to why I made that switch over to work where I currently am in that role. I enjoy serving multiple different diversities, ethnicities, races. I love sociology, anthropology, so that the interpersonal dynamic as well. So it really lended into being able to fulfill my purpose.
Okay, that's awesome. And Matthew, you've worked across so many different sectors, right? From not-for-profit to business to religious leadership. How did all these experiences shape your approach to leadership today, especially when it comes to aligning, plan, process, and people, the three P's. Yeah.
Yeah, I think each one, what I'll do, I think each one is a little bit different, but yet they all have this commonality. For instance, within the nonprofit sector, obviously there's an understanding and an application of mission driven type work that's there. There's a planning and a process that must take place. It's essential within that. And then you look at the business sector, and I really was in the operational efficiency side or the more strategic implementations of that business development sort of cycle. And then you have the religious leadership side, which it's funny because some religious leaders think that it's more of a business sector, but it's not. And one of the reasons it's not is because you have to be a catalyzing leader of volunteers, which is completely different than what you might see in the business sector. You can't just fire people, right? When you're in the religious side. So I think all of them, though, have a commonality that is the intentional plan, as you said, plan, process, and people. And if we look at the irreducible minimum to that, we would say that theory never produces change. You have to implement those things. And to know, for me, the one commonality is understanding how people work as a collective whole within that plan and process. For instance, we all know the diffusion of change bell curve. And for leaders, if they can understand who their innovators are, who the early adopters are, who the early majority is, and even who the laggards are, because they have to be invested in the shared mission, whether it's nonprofit, whether it's religious, or whether it's business. And I think for me, helping other leaders to do that is part of that planning process, because you will just have plan and process and never get to an implementation phase if we don't understand who those innovators, who the early, adopters are. So I think that's part of that process that I've learned over time.
That's amazing. And I forgot to ask you this, but can you tell us a little bit about World Relief as an organization? What do you do? What is the mission?
Yeah, so World Relief, I would say our mission concisely is to boldly engage in the world's greatest crisis. And so we're international, we're a global INGO, if you will, and we try to really, for the most part, I know it's going to sound cliche, but we really want to love people with hospitality that we believe our faith is entrenched in, right? We don't shy away from the fact that we're a Christian organization, but we don't mandate those things, right? And so we want to love on people the way we can see true impact come to and transformation in community. So World Relief serves, those people who are in conflict, chaos, turmoil in the world's areas that are really in the greatest need, if you will.
What an amazing purpose. We are truly honored to be associated, right, with World Relief in any capacity, and as well as you. It's really amazing that, you have taken, this mission, right, for people who absolutely need, whatever support, they could get. Now, in your role at World Relief, you help align faith with mission and strategy. How do you ensure that the people you lead remain motivated and connected to the bigger plan, the purpose?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, what I love to say is within my role specifically, I tend to want to use the word serve instead of lead. And I think it's one of the best attributes that a leader could ever have, because we have to complement the other leaders in the organization. That's part of my role. And by compliment, I don't mean you're doing a good job. I mean, to come alongside and to work with them. And so when I do that, my role is about serving them to the best of my ability to help them to be the most successful in their context in the community they serve. So I want to help build or cultivate an authentic work faith balance that has the shared vision of World Relief. Now, obviously, our U.S. programs are going to look a lot different than our international programs, and they're all a little bit different. So in the bigger sense of the plan, I want to make sure that people understand that everyone that they serve across the globe is created in the image of God. That means that all people have value, they have love, they have integrity, and they should be able to have their respect that they are deserved, regardless of race, creed, or religion. And so our organization provides that opportunity for everyone, and to gather together. So if we're talking about how do I help our organization kind of drive or kind of have the bigger plan, understand that bigger plan within what they do and that faith alignment. One of the beautiful things I get to do is 5 times a year, I create a virtual gathering of everyone across the globe that comes together. I think when they're able to share stories of success within the middle of chaos and conflict and turmoil, it demonstrates a success. For instance, maybe we might hear, like last year within South Sudan, we had members who were there, leaders that were training others to be beekeepers. And in that sense, they're not only training people in the community how to cultivate bees to produce honey, but this is a nutrient rich food, and it's also providing a vocation for the person, and it's helping with environment. So it's sort of a win-win-win across the board. And when we hear stories like that, that helps people to understand we have a greater, bigger plan and purpose here. And our faith should just align with that, in the sense of we're doing really what we believe to be Christ-like principles.
Okay, that's awesome. Now, switching gears, we want to talk a little bit about scaling organizations, right? And when you scale organizations, there is always a question of crossing the chasm, right? As one of the management authors wrote about it. But truly, when you think about the messy middle phase, right, in scaling up organizations, what is one process you've seen often overlooked, right, that can really help businesses navigate through the chaos?
I think everyone would probably understand the one word communication, but what I would say for something deeper within that, this is one of the reasons why I really do love Profico and their work. And it lends over toward the OKRs, the objectives and key results. So I think a lot of times organizations are frozen in that messy middle. They're not they can't take their organizations from good to great, and this is across the board, whether it be business or whether it be religious or whether it be nonprofit. All organizations can utilize OKRs. So I see it as threefold. Either they're not using OKRs at all, or perhaps they have OKRs that are not achievable, or they're not doing it within a quarterly sense to really to help track those metrics, or maybe their OKRs are not challenging enough at all to produce growth. And you have to produce growth to be able to expand and to get out of that sort of messy middle. And perhaps most organizations believe that they can't make the next step because they perceive the next step to be a leap and not something that's achievable, something that's challenging, or something that's visionary. So for me, I try to scale people back to say, hey, wait a minute, I hope we can and look at this with soft eyes. And what I mean by soft eyes is we need to see what's already right in front of us. It's right there. We're probably missing it to make the shift that we need to. And when we do that, it's going to help us to navigate these seasons of chaos, the seasons of crisis. But we all understand that shifts become easier, not harder, when they're done in productive steps that are measurable or have a metric to them. And you can, across the organization, look at it and see that. I think with us, one of the beauty of ours is that I don't just have OKRs, which I do have personal OKRs, but our team has multiple OKRs, and every day I can go in and look at them and see where my teammates are and see if they need help from me on that personal OKR or team OKR, or perhaps we have an organizational then, which is even broader, OKR. So I think if an organization if they don't have those things, maybe that may be one of the reasons why they're stuck in that messy middle part and they're not seeing any productive growth.
Great. Thanks, Matthew. That's pretty helpful. Moving on probably to a little bit about the people part of the 3Ps. You've mentored many leaders globally, right? And when helping leaders align their teams during periods of change, what's one thing you advise them to focus on when it comes to keeping people aligned with the new plan?
Yeah, I love this question. I would think for someone like me, it's that softball underhand question that I would normally just give the projected answer of, I'm going to always tell people in our organization, first get out of your head and look at Jesus. But I know exactly what you mean by this question. So I think for the main thing is to understand that we have community, we have culture, and we have context. And so when we're looking at this, how do people align with the plans that we have? I understand that every region is different. We cannot come to a region with a cookie cutter kind of understanding. It's complementing those people to help them do the work that they believe that they are inspired and encouraged to do to see passionate growth, right? Helping them fulfill a sense of purpose. So I think for me over the years, helping people as I mentor them understand what their gift is, what their talent is, perhaps what their skills are. It's a little easier after someone hits about 40 because they've already had some type of vocation, and maybe they might understand some of those passions that they have in life. But the main point is that people don't really take a job, in my opinion, because they want to just fulfill some type of financial obligation. It's usually something greater than that, that it's something that aligns almost with their internal DNA that helps them live out a sense of purpose. Now, obviously, for some people, their careers or their vocations can feel spiritual in a sense, and I don't negate that at all because we're spiritual beings. So I think for me, I want to help people fulfill that. So, for instance, if we're looking at how do we help an organization to move, I want to see if there is perhaps a person who's a visionary that's going to help the organization explain to others or illuminate other people into what can be instead of what they see, where the organization can go and what the organization will look like. Those are important people to have in the same sense as you have someone who's more magnetic in their personality. You want them to be a unifier, or someone who is an encourager with people skills. They're going to build a sense of culture and trust within your organization to stabilize that. So within mentoring leaders, it's always important for me to make sure that that leader understands what their skills, their gifts, and their talents are so that they can sort of proverbial tap into those things to best serve the organization for impact.
That's awesome. Probably moving to the final leg of this podcast. Dr. Matthew, as someone who is deeply involved in spiritual formation, how do you personally integrate your individual and personal growth along with organizational growth? Is there a way to nurture people spiritually while also driving business processes forward?
So this is what we have within World Relief called integral mission. We didn't coin the term, and I don't want to butcher Rene Padilla. But if you took a loaf of bread, as he has described before, and you or I would not be able to take out from that loaf the egg or the flour or the water or the yeast, it's already baked in. It makes the bread. And in that sense, I would say that while people grow spiritually individually, real true spiritual growth is highly communal. And it's the same thing as we've said, organizations are just people. And so people cannot grow without creating rhythms of change. And those rhythms of change have to be opportunities for them to see some type of productive growth within their life, but also an application to that. So again, it's not, as I said earlier, it's not just theoretical. Are we giving people opportunity to grow, but are we also giving them the opportunity to apply those things? And I think when the intersection of vocation and faith align, I think a person is most satisfied. I think that's when they find their sense of purpose. So for us at World Relief, we promote the individual spiritual development. That's central to our organizational culture, but we don't mandate it, right? So you can't force a tomato plant to grow by saying grow. And so for us, it's about how do we nourish it and feed it and provide a safe environment for productive growth. And we want to do that the best way that we can so that people can feel a sense of purpose and a sense of fulfillment. So I would say basically, our work is our faith. That is what we do. So helping people, that helps us. We grow as we serve. And so I think it drives our business processes forward as we see people growing community and growing together. The organization grows. It's one of the most beautiful things I've seen. And then yet we're watching, in a way, we're watching communities be transformed globally as we do that. So I think, in my opinion, World Reliefs has some of the most greatest professionals and experts in so many different realms of fields that they work in, and they're all have this sense of fulfillment, whether it be someone in finance, whether it be someone working in resettlement. But it's a phenomenal organization, and I don't have to work too hard sometimes to make that alignment. People understand that alignment compels them and propels them.
Wow, that's deeply insightful. And your passion for World Relief's mission is quite apparent. Now, probably one more question on alignment. Right? You've been involved in church planting and community building efforts, right? What's one key thing that you've learned about aligning people and processes in these environments, especially when trying to scale a mission-driven organization, Dr. Matthew?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think the best way I can answer it is through my mindset, understanding the probably missiologically. We can't change community with colonialism. If you understand what I mean by that, we had 18th century missionaries who, in all intents and purposes, were meaning to have good intentions in the things they do, but they were creating public schools and new centers of governance and English languages and promoting doctrinal adherence. That's all great intention, but you're not seeing transformational heart growth or heart change from those things. And so when teaching or when providing these communal efforts, these communal building efforts, or breaking the chains, so to speak, of poverty in area, we have to understand, for me, when I'm teaching someone, they have to see that there are systemic, I should say, oppressions. There's systemic suffering within that community, or pains or hurts, or even a gravitational spiritualism that perhaps is there, and a passion that's in that community. And if we don't get the pulse on what that community has, we're not understanding the significance of relational dynamics, because that's really, when we talk about people and processes, we're not going to move or see people invested in it unless they feel like they're a stakeholder, right? No matter what it is within any community. And so no matter the good we want to do, if we're not into to help people to understand this is your community, it's not about an organization coming in and trying to do that. That's whether or not it's church planting, that's whether or not it's business. And you even see this with organizations as big as Coca-Cola. It's understanding that this is what we do for community because we care about community, all right, to enhance it.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Now, probably the final question in this podcast, and this is truly for people who are maybe just getting started with their career or probably still at the early stages of a career. You've had such a diverse career, right? Looking back, what's one thing that you are most proud of in how you have balanced faith, leadership, and organizational growth? Right? And also, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Those are great questions, both of those. I think one of the things I'm probably most proud of is the journey that I've been on. I have learned personally. I'm actually a super competitive person with myself, and I've had to learn how to say no to certain things, thinking I could do everything. I think also learning to serve with humility, uh, and wanting to see people achieve more than I could ever achieve has been a learning process. I think another thing that I'm kind of proud of within that is that I definitely strive for organizational impact. I want to see the organization that I work for or work with, I want to see them to be very successful. Within that, there should be a certain amount of metrics that I can apply to my position and how I'm helping drive that impact. So within those sort of three things, I would say, I know you asked for like one, but I went down there. If there was one thing that I could tell my younger self, I would probably say, you don't know what you don't know. And that's insightful for me because I realized that as I was going through this journey, embracing things that I didn't know from another perspective, seeing through the other person's eyes, or being able to dive into diverse experiences is very enlightening. Being able to see something from someone else's perspective is so important. And so you can't say this isn't growing for this, or this community isn't doing X, or this person isn't doing Y, unless you're seeing through their eyes with that. So I think you don't know what you don't know is one of my favorite lines.
That's a great way to end this podcast. And Dr. Matthew, we are truly thankful and grateful for all your very insightful responses. And it was a pretty beautiful glimpse into the world of, I would say, not-for-profit, spiritual, purpose-driven organizations, and your own personal growth, right? And that was truly inspiring. And as I said before, we're always very proud to be associated with World Relief and the great purpose that you are driving home. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Matt.